What's up everyone, my name is Arthur West and today I'm super excited to show you how to convert a Google Doc into a working web page. This is of course a no-code workflow that takes you from doc to website in just a few easy clicks. We'll show you how to position your content and map the data so that it all looks great on the front end. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. We're gonna start completely from scratch today so that you can see the entire process from A to Z without skipping any steps in the middle. You can either click start building or log in. Either way, you'll be brought right into the editor here where you get your dashboard of existing projects. I'm gonna go down to the bottom in the navigation bar and I'm gonna click create site to create a completely blank new site here. If you click into the site name, I'm gonna rename this to Google Docs 1 so that we can easily find this site since I have so many at a step later in the process. Once we do that, we can actually click into edit site, which brings us into this editor here where we don't have any information. I'm gonna do a quick save and then I'm actually down here in this navigation bar gonna hop back out to this gallery of remixable blocks to pull in some content that we can use to help us speed up the build here. I'm gonna use this tiles block and I'm going to add this to my site so that we can use these tiles as sort of a foundation for our blog. So I'm just going to go ahead and click add to site and then I actually have to choose my site. I'm going to choose this Google Docs 1 and I'm going to click add to site. As you will see, this just says remixing. It'll take a moment here and basically what it does is it brings this block right into our project. Really cool. You can add a ton of different blocks from navigations to footers to gallery blocks or anything in between, but we're just adding this tiles block to our existing site. So if we click our little avatar down at the bottom, we get back to our dashboard, we find this Google Docs 1, we hit edit site, and just like that, you can see that this tiles v1 has been added to our site. If we click this, we'll actually see this really nice block in our site that's completely styled and ready to go. Now, we are gonna need to make some changes here. So we're gonna be dynamically feeding data into this site. So we actually only need one of these blocks. And then what we'll do is we'll drive the data to it, and then each new piece of data that comes in, it'll create a new block. So let me show you what we need to do here. We have 2 rows. We can just delete this whole second row by clicking the little hamburger menu and then choosing delete. Great, let's take a look. Okay, now we only have 1 row. If we expand this down, here is this row, and here are the 3 blocks, 1, 2, 3, within this row. Again, we're gonna be dynamically populating data, so I'm gonna delete out these other 2 blocks, just like this. Okay, and now we just have 1 block. Perfect. So that gets us sort of set up for bringing in the data. I'm gonna go ahead and click save here, and I'm gonna hop back out to our worksheet, which again, along the navigation bar at the bottom, this is sort of how you navigate between different parts of your project. If we click worksheet here, we can hop into this section here that says sheets, which is essentially just our database for this site. So we're gonna create a new sheet. We'll call it posts. So these are gonna be our blog posts that we're gonna bring dynamically in from Google. Here's our database. It's completely empty. So what's really nice about this is you can feed data into this from some other source, or you can type it in manually. I'm just gonna put some headers in here. Our blog post is gonna have an avatar image. It's gonna have a title, and it's gonna have a body. So very simple blog structure, basically an avatar of the person that is writing the post, the title of the post, and then the actual body text of the post. Along the bottom here, I'm gonna go ahead and click save, and I'm gonna use this navigation to go back to our tile that we were working on earlier. So right now, we just have this element in here, which is this sort of tile block. But what we want to do, as we talked about already, is bring in this data from our Google Docs, and it needs to be dynamically driven or dynamically populated from our post database that we just set up. So to do this, we're going to add an element, and we're actually going to choose rather sheet feed. So sheet feed is just a way of saying that we want to bring our data in from a sheet. Our sheet is going to be called post, but so we can add this element to our page and we'll call it posts. There it is, and we want to just drag it up here so that's above this tiles row block. So that's great, but it actually needs to be nested within this sheet feed. So I can just drag this in here, and now this block is not showing because it doesn't have any data into it, but it is nested underneath this post sheet feed block. So if I click this hamburger menu here, we can set up some of the attributes. What sheet this is coming from is probably the most important. We can actually just choose post still. We just have some basic information there, but it's not actually pulling any information from our database. Its starting row is 1. We actually want to make this 2, and I'll show you why here. If we go back to our post, we have this first row, which is going to be our header. So we don't want it to start on that row. We want it to start it on row 2. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some dummy data in here to make sure that this works before I sync it to our Google Sheet. So I'm going to take an image URL, which is just a picture of me, and I'm going to put that URL right there. This handles image URLs or actual image files from your computer. I'll call this sample post, and I'll call this blah blah blah, which would be the body of our post. I can go ahead and click save there and go back to our tiles. Okay, so this still isn't pulling any information in. I go into this a little bit more depth in another tutorial, but it's super easy to get information from your database right into this block here. So all you need to do is take each element. This happens to be the image element of this image here. So we can take this element, and actually what we need to do, because it's nested within this post element, this feed element, is we can just actually change this to equals A. Okay, so now that we chose equals A, you see a little avatar image of me pop up here. That is because in column A, this image URL goes to my avatar on Google. Pretty cool. So if we hop back here, we can just quickly update this. This will equals B. I keep everything caps. I actually think it does need to be capitalized. Now this says sample post. Let's hop back here. That's what it says, great sample post. If we're coming back here, so we actually don't have another paragraph element, so we can just click this hamburger again and click duplicate. And if we duplicate this, now we have another paragraph test, but it's just saying sample post. So we actually want to change this to equals C, because that's where our body section is in our database, is in column C. So that says blah, blah, blah. That's perfect. So looking pretty good. It's pulling in the data from our post table. We might want to change like the font weight here just to make it like a little bit smaller so that it doesn't stand out as much as the header. So if you hit Command K, you can get to this these text elements, and as you can see here, this is our sort of header paragraph, and then this is the paragraph that we just created. Maybe we want this text to be like an 8 pixels. We come here, we'll see. This should update. Let me see here. You know what? I think I need to, let me rename this. We'll call this body. And okay, I see. I was updating the padding actually, so we'll keep this padding at 12 pixels. And then if we come here to the font size, this is where it could change this to maybe like 12 pixels. So now, when we take a look at what we just did, we can see the font size for the actual body of the post is a little smaller, which will be good. It'll be easier to sort of see what the post is versus the title. So that looks really, really good. Okay, so we have this like basic structure where this data is coming from our sheet and it's populating right into this block. For each post, if we were to just do another post, let's just copy this down. This is just all the same data, but let's copy this down. And if we look at our page now. Let's save this and go back to our page. Now we have 2 posts there. They have the same content, but you get the idea. This is working. We are essentially creating blog posts from our table here. Now, what we want to do today is show you how you could sync this to a Google Doc. Let's say you have, a marketing team that's writing posts in Google Docs, but you don't want to give them access to the site necessarily, and they're just not technical. So you can say, hey, just update this Google Doc. Once you make a new change in the doc, it'll automatically sync to the site. That would be pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out to Google Docs and we're going to create a blank doc here. We'll call this doc new post 1, and we will say, blah, blah, blah. This is a test post, okay? And what we'll do is I'll just copy and paste this so that there's some more content here, so we feel like it's more of a blog post. Now, we can go back to our site, and when we're in our sheet, we can actually use this Zapier function to bring in data from somewhere else into our the.com sheet. So we can go ahead and click Zapier. It has all these pre-built options, but we're going to create a new one. So we're going to create new Zap. Give it a second here. Okay, so we can just say blog to the.com. Great. And we can look for our first app that we want to use as the trigger app. And not Sheets, we want to use Google Docs. Great. So I'm going to choose what event, and we're going to actually want to do a new document within a folder. Let's go ahead and do that. So we chose new document within a folder because the other option would be new document, which would be any new document that happens in our Google Drive or our Google Docs. And since I have lots of different documents in my Google Drive or my Google Docs, we need to actually choose folder. Otherwise, any new document that was created would add here, and that would not work for us. So we're going to choose new document in folder. We're going to hit continue, and then we choose our Google Doc account. We've already connected it, so we'll just choose that one. And now this is where you can actually choose the folder, and we're gonna hop out to our Google Drive and we're gonna make a new folder here. So let's go ahead and click new and choose folder, and we'll say the.com post new. Okay, so we'll create the.com post new. We'll come back here, and if we refresh this, we should actually be able to find this, the.com post. Okay, it's not there yet. Let's load again. Post new. There it is. So we just found that folder that we created on our Google Drive. Now, there's nothing in that folder yet, so let's hop back to our posts. And what we need to do here is we need to come to File and choose Move, and then we can actually move this to the.com post new. So let's go ahead and move it. All right, new post 1 has been moved from my drive to the.com post new. So now this document now lives within that folder, and if we come back here, we can test our trigger. And there we go. The document that we just placed in there is actually now able to be found by the Zap workflow that we're building with Zapier. Great. And it pulls in all of this data from our doc. I'll show you here how we can set this up. So now that we chose sort of the triggers app, we want to choose the actions app. This is going to be the.com. Great. So action event is we want to send the data to our app sheet, which is essentially just our database on our site. We choose our account. Here's my account. And now we actually have to choose our site and some other fields to map all of this data from our Google Docs. So this is going to load up. What do we want to do? We want to create a new row. Which site do we want to use? This is, if you remember, we called this Google Docs 1. And then the sheet ID is just post. So that's the sheet that we want to bring this information into. So we're gonna skip row number, and here are our fields that we created earlier. If you remember, we have avatar, we have title, and we have body. So for our avatar, we are actually gonna look at all these options here, and we're gonna pick owner pictures URL. So the owner of the doc, their picture URL is gonna sync to the avatar space in our spreadsheet. The title, we're just gonna choose the title of the doc, which is new post 1. And then for the body, we are just gonna choose the raw plain text contest. This is where we typed in the body of our Google Doc. Great, go ahead and click continue. What it's gonna do here is it's going to ask you to test this to make sure it all works. So we can do that. We can hit test and continue. We should get a success message here. Let's go ahead and give this a try. Looks like it was sent to the.com just now, so it looks like everything works. We can go ahead and turn this on. Now, what we'll do is we'll hop back to our site by clicking out of here, and we actually need to save, and we'll go back to our sort of main, I think I need to save some other things here. Let's go back here to our worksheet, and I'm gonna click save all. I'm gonna go back to our main site. It looks like I didn't save something here, potentially. Okay, great. So we're gonna go back to our main site, and we're gonna come back in, and if we take a look at our posts, we have this new post from our Google Doc. If we go back to our tiles, we can see this is our post here. If we scroll down, you can actually see this is all of the text that came in from the post. It's all here at the bottom. Now, this is getting pushed down right now because we have some other data in our worksheet. If you right click, you can actually delete out these rows. And if we click save and we go back here, we can see this is what this post looks like. Of course, we didn't spend too much time on formatting, so you'd probably want to put some spacing in here to bump it in from the side so it looks a little better. But as you can see, our new post just synced in. Now, let's go back here to our Google Drive, and we're in the.com post new. What we can do, let's just say someone wanted to create a new post. We can actually make a copy of this in here, and let's just say test 2 and blah, 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 blah. And then we can add some more information to this. Now, when we go back to our site, this new doc, which would be our post 2, will actually sync to our site. So like each post or each doc in this folder will essentially be a new post on our site. So in a matter of a few minutes, we've been able to sync a blog from our Google Docs to our the.com database. Let's just go back out there and see if this worked. Okay. And there it is. It is there. There's our post 2. So pretty cool. Anytime that you would need to create a new post on your site, you could have this shared Google Drive folder. Let me find it here. Okay, you could have this shared Google Drive folder, and then you could just tell whoever's writing the post just to simply duplicate this, write the new post, and then it would sync up right to the site, all automatically without any code or anything like that. And then the website manager or the designer could design this to style it to make it look a little bit better. But again, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. This was more about the automation going from Google Docs to your the.com database. I hope this is super helpful. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.